Okay, so as I said, we'll talk about AI ethics and governance. As I said, many of you, I see that many of you are from from academia. We see this shaking our industry. We have discussions about bots, or we have we've seen how bots could create essays for us, and those of us who are doing essays or are asking our students to submit essays as part of assignments. Uh, that kind of modality of instruction has just been appended. Um, Even journals are having problems with large language models emulating a good old-fashioned scholarship. If you look at the Philippines, this is the traffic at ChatGPT. Of course, United States expectedly number one in terms of population. I mean the volume rather. India is coming in next, but as you can see, Philippines is on third place. But adjusting for population, not so bad for Philippines. That is probably an ambiguous development. What are we using ChatGPT for? Hopefully for learning and not to uh, you know get around learning. So not take too much shortcuts. So what is AI? We're talking about a diverse practice dedicated to developing systems capable of performing tasks, solving problems with human intelligence or associated with human intelligence. Most, if not all, systems that make decisions normally require human expertise fall within the purview of AI. There is a conflation of terms out there. One of the terms being confused with is the expression data science or the field of data science. But artificial intelligence is actually distinct, although there is an overlap. So the broader term artificial intelligence, the more specific would be machine learning. And the ones that we are experiencing, at least for most part, if you're using large language models such as ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, that would be deep learning. So there are various areas of artificial intelligence, and I suppose many of you know already, as you have competently answered the questions in the quiz earlier on. So one of these would be natural language processing for communicating with humans, knowledge representation to store what we know, automation or automated reasoning for to answer questions or draw new conclusions. This is basically what also involved in ChatGPT. You have a logic for inferencing. As they say, ChatGPT 4 is better than ChatGPT 5, 3.5 rather. So you have that area. These are not mutually exclusive, including, of course, machine learning to adapt to new conditions or detect and extrapolate patterns. Computer vision, speech recognition, also other areas of AI. And last but not least is robotics. You probably have seen robots from Boston Dynamics, for instance, the ones that can really jump, roll, and serve as soldiers in the field. No, this is happening as we speak. So we have that area as well. So in discussion of AI, we'll talk about principles.
Today, we embark on a journey for the values informing the future of AI. Before we begin, let's reflect on a real life story that highlights the importance of ethical principles and considerations in AI. In 2018, Amazon developed an AI powered recruiting tool to assist with hiring. The tool was designed to scan resumes and identify the most qualified candidates. However, it was later discovered that the tool was biased against female candidates. The reason? It was trained on resumes submitted to Amazon over the past 10 years, which were predominantly from male applicants. As a result, the system learned to favor male candidates and downrank resumes with words commonly used by women. With that in mind, let's take a look at the principles that hopefully can help us be fair and develop AI to serve our best goals and aspirations as a people. a report on an AI development framework available at ai-ph.org/devframe offers a set of value-based guidelines covering inclusive growth, human-centered values, transparency, robustness, and accountability. These principles are the foundation of responsible AI development. I strongly suggest that you check out this live online document for a detailed discussion of today's topic. Principle 1: Inclusive growth, sustainable development, and well being. Artificial intelligence plays a crucial role in sustainable development, intertwined with our national goals for inclusive growth and well being. As countries embrace AI, it is essential to consider both its advantages and risk. Mitigating potential negative effects is vital, ensuring AI's benefits are shared equitably across society. Principle 2: Human-centered values and fairness. Fairness is a cornerstone of AI. Bias in AI systems can lead to discriminatory outcomes affecting various sectors in society. Defining and evaluating fairness in AI is a challenge, but we must ensure AI respects human rights and data privacy rights. Instead of relying solely on AI, robots, or automation, it's essential to involve humans directly, especially for high-risk systems. While AI can offer innovative solutions, human participation remains crucial to ensure these systems enhance human capabilities rather than causing harm. AI's potential for innovation is limitless, but it also opens doors to potential misuse. Ensuring fairness in the development of AI is challenging, but our stakeholders argue that end users should have transparency into AI's decision-making process and the ability to influence results. In some cases, human involvement is necessary to avoid purely algorithmic decision-making, ensuring clear human accountability and system auditability. However, it's essential to recognize that autonomous systems may not always be under human control to some degree. Therefore, we must qualify human involvement in AI systems, particularly in high-risk applications. In such cases, having humans in the loop, HITL, is crucial. For high-risk AI systems, the EU AI Act mandates human oversight to ensure safe and responsible use. Human involvement in AI goes beyond HITL. A successful approach involves leveraging both human and machine competences in a virtuous cycle to produce valuable and positive outcomes. At its core, AI must prioritize the protection of human rights. Principle 3: Robustness, security, and safety. Building trust in AI requires us to prioritize robust, secure, and safe systems. Whether it's self-driving cars or medical applications, reliability is of utmost importance. To ensure safety standards and protect human rights, adequate regulations and oversight play a vital role. While it's essential to acknowledge that the majority of AI systems deployed so far are largely safe, it's understandable that people might get fixated on the more dramatic incidents. For instance, earlier this year, there was a tragic incident involving a Belgian man who reportedly engaged in a 6-week-long conversation with an AI chatbot called Eliza about the ecological future of the planet. The chatbot supported his eco-anxiety and tragically encouraged him to take his own life to save the planet. Instances like this remind us of the responsibility we hold as AI developers to prioritize safety and well-being. Recently, the launch of OpenAI ChatGPT language model stirred mixed reactions. This model showcased its ability to mimic human conversations and generate unique text based on users' prompts. However, this has also raised concerns about potential misuse or unintended consequences. Moving forward, it is crucial for AI developers to strive for continuous improvement in making their products and services safer to use. By emphasizing robustness, security, and safety, we can foster public trust and ensure that AI technology is a force for good in our lives. Principle 4: Accountability. AI actors must be accountable for their actions and decisions. Responsible AI involves transparency and the ability to explain the reasoning behind AI system choices. Auditability helps ensure compliance with regulations and mitigates potential risk associated with AI. The risk of disinformation has gained prominence recently with the advent of ChatGPT and generative AI. Consider the case of Brian Hood, an Australian mayor. Hood was a whistleblower praised for showing tremendous courage, by exposing a worldwide bribery scandal linked to Australia's National Reserve Bank. However, his voters told him that ChatGPT named him as a guilty party and was jailed for it in such a bribery scandal in the early 2000s. Should OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, be held responsible for such apparent disinformation and reputational harm? Even it could not possibly know in advance what their generative AI would say? The question of whether OpenAI should be responsible for this is a complex one. On the one hand, OpenAI could argue that it is not responsible for the content that its AI system generates. On the other hand, OpenAI could also be seen as having a responsibility to ensure that its AI system is not used to spread disinformation. Principle 5, transparency, explainability, and traceability. Transparency in AI policies and decisions is vital for a democratic society. Understanding AI systems, even for non-technical stakeholders, foster truth and informed decision-making. Explainability allows us to identify potential biases and ensure fair AI outcomes. In Singapore, it's required that AI decisions and associated data can be explained in non-technical terms to end users and other stakeholders. This openness promotes informed public debate and democratic legitimacy for AI. However, the concern of AI systems being perceived as black boxes, lacking transparency and explainability, has been raised during our stakeholder consultations. AI systems navigate through billions, trillions of variables that influence outcomes in complex ways, making it challenging to comprehend even with human attention. Large language models like ChatGPT, with trillions of parameters, have made explainability elusive, even to their own developers. Non-linear models further complicate understanding the connection between inputs and outputs. Despite these challenges, developers are working on solutions. More interpretable models, like decision trees and rule-based systems, are being explored. Techniques such as human-readable rule extraction, sensitivity analysis, and localized explanations are also enhancing explainability. Additionally, detailed documentation of model architecture, training data, and evaluation metrics can provide valuable insights into AI system behavior. Regarding transparency, some stakeholders propose focusing on policies and processes rather than revealing AI algorithms entirely. This approach acknowledges potential risk, as excessive transparency might hinder innovation by diverting resources from improving safety and performance. As the European Union moves towards adopting the AI Act, there's another important principle linked to transparency called traceability. Traceability is distinct from explainability, but equally significant. While explainability focuses on understanding how an AI system works, traceability involves actively tracking its use to identify potential issues. This empowers AI system operators to spot and address risk like data bias and coding errors. Achieving traceability means keeping records of the data used, the decisions made, and the reasons behind them. Explainability, on the other hand, plays a critical role in building user trust and aiding informed decision making. It provides a human-readable explanation of how an AI system makes decisions. Both traceability and explainability contribute to the broader principle of transparency. However, it's important to recognize that transparency alone may not automatically build public trust. Professor Honora O'Neill highlighted this concern in her BBC Right lectures 2 decades ago, noting that while transparency and openness have advanced, they have not done much to build public trust. In fact, trust may have even diminished as transparency increased. This insight remains relevant in today's discussions about AI and its regulations. Principle 6, trust. Trust is a crucial element in AI adoption. AI systems must prove themselves to be reliable and safe, especially in applications impacting lives and livelihoods. Earning trust requires adherence to high standards and inclusive AI governance. We now know that transparency does not automatically translate to trust. We need trust to provide space for our Filipino AI developers to pursue innovation that benefits society. In turn, they have to act responsibly and be trustworthy. AI research is a public good that needs to be supported by all stakeholders. This is where my presentation ends, even as we all continue with our journey through AI principles. For more details, check out our report on AI governance framework for the Philippines, available at ai-ph.org/devframe. The values and principles we discussed today are the compass guiding AI's future. Let's continue to develop AI responsibly, ensuring it benefits everyone while respecting human rights and promoting a fair and equitable society.
Hi. So let me just elaborate on some of the points there on the principles, and we'll move on to elements of governance later on. But very quickly, you see this being supported locally with the Philippine Innovation Act. You see AI's burdens and benefits have to be shared equitably as promulgated by these laws and other government policies. You'll also be seeing increase in global economic activity around 13 trillion, estimated by 2030. 70% of the companies would have adopted at least one type of AI technology. For us academia, it's there's an onslaught of use of AI technologies already by researchers and students alike, even faculty. AI can also cause a significant boost in labor productivity up to 40%. That's why in some of my gigs, I would require our staff to really use AI tools, because that's going to be 40% boost in productivity. However, all is not well in paradise. There is persistence of digital divide. There are digital rights that need to be upheld. It used to be that access to internet was the equalizer, but not anymore. With AI, you need online access. You need competencies. You need to empower people. So it's not enough for government or for us to have access to internet. We have to have competencies to be able to use AI intelligently or productively. Hence, there is what I call an AI leap, from moving from mere access to having certain algorithmic skills, having access to fair data sets. Unfortunately, Philippines is a data poor country. I've just been dealing with data from basic education, and I see that data are really the data sets from that sector are really replete with gaps, and the quality of data is poor. And then you all have to be treated fairly with these data sets. So that three things there in the upper part of the slide would be part of your appropriation or use of AI fairly. So digital divide is no longer simply having access to the internet, but really be able to do AI. It's probably that's the wisdom driving the inclusion of this webinar in this series. So we also have to think in terms of hype cycles. Right now, there's so much hype around AI, and it's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future. But I'd like to suppose that you have to think of this in terms of specific technologies having to undergo hype cycles. So there's been trigger. I think the LLM popularity is already peaked. There is inflated expectations peaking, so it's probably going to disappoint you. So if you haven't started using large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, I suggest you get yourself bored. No, you have to be bored. You have to be disappointed, so to speak, after using it extensively. No, so once you get to that, you'll have you'll be disillusioned, and you'll see LLMs or large language models or AI in its own terms. You'll have some kind of enlightenment, and from there will be more productive. I must confess that my productivity these days is very much powered by AI. So I couldn't be writing, or I couldn't be writing letters or designing training without the support of AI. So I suppose I'm getting ahead of the curve a little bit. I'm now in the plateau of productivity, because for some time already I've been bored with AI. No, so another aspect to look into would be how human-centered our values are, and in terms of fairness in the in the deployment of AI. So we've seen in the video how we need to treat people fairly, avoiding algorithmic decisions and their discriminatory consequences. We have to uphold fairness, entailing respect for human rights and data privacy. But as you can see, AI is very pervasive. It's even affecting people. So if you're just doing hairdressing, if you're doing some makeup, and you apply for jobs, it could well be the case that you are being discriminated against by AI simply because you have, as they say, a resting beach face. No, so what job is safe from AI? It, it doesn't look promising because it appears that even jobs that we suppose are immune from AI may actually be affected by AI one way or another. So we have to ask ourselves whether our jobs are really safe from AI. Now, you also have questions about how ChatGPT may tend to compromise privacy. So in this case, you have uh, at least initially in Italy, there was a ban on ChatGPT because it didn't have any age restriction, and in Italy they're very strict in protecting their children. So it was banned initially, and you also see later on you have security breaches or privacy breaches in AI deployment. In for companies, and this is probably where you have to work harder. You may have to have your own model running in your own PC and not use ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude for that matter. If you are very concerned with, for instance, intellectual property. So there are many tools out there that you can use, probably for a non-technical person. Olama, that's one tool that you can use for running AI models such as Orca or Llama 2 and others. So there are alternatives to ChatGPT and running them in your local PC. Although I must warn you, they are compute intensive. So if I run it in my laptop, it's very slow. No? So another aspect would be robustness, security, and safety. I cannot overemphasize the need for robustness, especially for products facing consumers. It's one thing to have products that you use for experiment, for your personal research. It's another to really deploy it in a mass scale. Hence, the need for security, the need to make it safe for people. So you cannot do that as standalone or siloed system. It has to be in a form of an ecosystem where there is regulation, where there is enough eyeballs, there are enough eyeballs to examine your work or the product, and where there's enough feedback from customers. So an example would be self-driving cars. You cannot have self-driving cars if you don't have robust systems for running those cars. We already see this, for instance, in Wuhan, in San Francisco, in some other places, but this is still far from being deployed universally. No, accountability, as mentioned earlier on, there was also a quiz in this regard, so I will probably just skip these elements. But the point is, you'll have to be able to carry some stick. No, it's not enough for people to self-declare that they are accountable. You'll there has to be some consequences on operators, no, of AI. So this is also mentioned in the video, but I will just emphasize the need to really have humans in the loop, especially for critical systems. No, there are ways to. I mean, AI has been used to screen out people. You see, for instance, the Hilton chain of hotels. They pretty much use AI to screen out or to choose their people, at least initially the screening. So we'll have to see have a closer look at how we could regulate that industry, because it's possible that there are and fairness going on in that regard, no? And then you'll also have with this election season, at least in the US and soon Philippines as well. India will be going up this year as actually uh, a milestone year, so to speak, for democracy because many large population or important countries with significant populations would be going for election, and people are worried that deep fakes might affect electoral outcomes, no? Now the term deep fake is of course rather pejorative. The more neutral term in AI would be synthetic media, which I must admit I also use, no? As you can see in my video, that's partly synthetic media. Now, the need for framework is is something that cannot be overemphasized, especially when we talk about transparency, because you have to have a way of putting together regulation, encouraging practice, and having feedback from our stakeholders, especially in non-technical terms. Because it's one thing to be talking to fellow technologists, it's another thing to be talking to people who are users, ordinary users, who are consuming our products, who rely on them for life death situations, for instance, and that is one area where AI may not necessarily be the best option. So the need for transparency and explainability in that regard, no? So the problem, however, as mentioned in the video, it's a black box. Even developers themselves do not understand the or cannot explain what's going on in that box, no? So that is not necessarily uh, a problem that's going to persist forever, but it's something that could be a function of stage of development. So maybe as the science progresses, they will be able to explain the neural connections leading to certain outcomes, no? So what we need, at least for us in the developing country, is some level of trust for our developers, for our own developers, which is not to say they are necessarily more trustworthy than say Americans or Europeans or Australians, but the trust that we mean here is really trust that is enabling our local developers to have the space, a safe space to experiment, to explore, without having to be too worried about regulation, no? Especially if you're talking about less than large language models, no? So for super large language models, of course, it has so much power, and with so much power, as they say, comes greater responsibility. In the case of trust, this is especially due for developers that are developing smaller systems, no? So um, there is the trust dynamics also works the other way, so that the local developers will have to trust the regulators themselves, no? And the idea is to really cooperatively pursue safety and security, robustness, fairness, and transparency in our work. So moving on to the elements of governance, this is the model developed by Lubana. It's an incorporation of ISOs and many other governance standards, made up of several elements. No, so you have engaged boards, board oversight, enterprise leadership planning, AI ethics, core AI technical elements, ongoing evolution, people and culture, enterprise risk oversight, operational structures, processes, and mechanisms. For those of you coming from the IT field, you may have seen some of this, and there is so much overlap actually. So the question is AI governance reducible to IT governance? No? And my answer is that it's actually distinct despite having overlaps. No, there is an overlap between IT governance and and AI governance. But AI governance is so much more powerful, so much more encompassing than just IT. So reputationally, fairly or unfairly, IT has been so closely associated with information systems, with infrastructure, but AI is so much more. AI is affecting organizations in a more cultural sense. AI is affecting technologies especially as it intersects with human behavior, with human interactions, with how organizations are able to compete or to survive in society. I will no longer let me just gloss over some of the elements here in the governance, but I would just say that perhaps you can spend more time to look at these elements more closely, because I suppose we don't have enough time to really have a deep dive on each of the element. So when it comes to engaged board oversight, governance areas covering overlapping elements of knowledge and engaged boards. When we talk about in Philippine corporations, for instance, while there is supposed to be boards, in practice, our boards are not necessarily activist boards, are not necessarily assertive boards. I've been in the board of some of the organizations, and I would say that the the levels of sophistications would rather be of sophistication in across these boards would be very uneven. Some boards are just rubber stamps, other boards are so activist, but then probably more on the docile side. Now, but if you have to docile side of the organization. So if you do governance with an engaged board, you need to empower them, you need to capacitate them to be able to provide oversight, guidance for deployment of AI. In the end, it's really the board that is responsible for overseeing the entire AI affairs and knowledge related to AI risk and opportunities. So you cannot have people running organizations when they don't have the capacity to run. No, in the same manner that we can say you cannot have legislators legislate over AI, legislate on AI when these legislators do not even know what really AI is. No, so that is a parallel argument there. No, so the lack of expertise in this area is rather obvious. We see some government or some private corporations in the Philippines that are stepping up, of course. For instance, Union Bank, you see RCBC, you see BPI, the Ayala Group anyway, are trying to capacitate their board to be able to be prepared or to provide oversight in the deployment of AI. But others may not necessarily have the means to capacitate its board to provide wise guidance on the deployment of AI, and that is a serious problem. So it means that we have to have good leadership and management, AI-driven strategy and architecture processes. We see that the Philippines is a very uneven has a very uneven development of technologies. Some of those are still lurking, wallowing in the dark, for lack of even basic compute or basic digital infrastructures. Other are leaping. We have AI companies that are operating in Southeast Asia, so they're doing well. But in between that is a large gap between those that are really wallowing in the dark ages of digital development and those who are moving in advance. But overall, we're being overtaken by our neighbors like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia. So there's a need to really look at our strategy as something that needs to be driven by AI. Competent and talented AI specialists, that is something we lack. This is an overall function of human development, of human resources development in the Philippines. We produce the least number of PhDs, for instance, compared to Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore. So this is an area where we need to really step up. No? Robust governance and data assets of data assets. I'm painfully aware how terrible, how data poor we are as a country. There are many misconceptions about what we can do with data. There's lack of appreciation of how much power, how much value we can create out of data. But then we're getting there very slowly, and I would say very frustrating in a very frustrating way. No, so um, there has to be some level of capacity building, especially uh, in the production of useful data sets, for instance. No, governance of algorithm and AI models. This is where we need greater competence, because you cannot just audit algorithm if you don't know algorithm. So there are the big four, the accounting people anyway, would have emergent um, capacities or competencies for this, and they are training other auditors. But I would say more organically, even in universities, we have to say that we have to think of how our colleagues can audit other colleagues when it comes to algorithms. No, so um, questions of data and individual privacy, bias and fairness, trustworthiness, safety, robustness, explainability. These are also concerns of governance. No, so however, you have to think that we have to be wary of the fact that the autonomous system or function is to some degree out of human control. Kaya nga sinasabi natin autonomous. No, auto means self. Nomos or nomi means rules. It governs itself, and that what AI really is about. But you don't want this to be applied to all facets of life. There are some areas of life that we probably would need greater human involvement. So we'll have to qualify what human involvement or autonomy, for that matter, also means in that respect. So humans in the loop is an interesting concept, nice to have, but harder to implement, especially as you go full automations. There are some areas where you don't want to apply AI, and this is support the AI Act of Europe. It's coming up. It's promulgated supposedly next year. It's going to be applied to all of European territories, but it seems that people are in a rush because of the obvious need to hurry. No, but hopefully the idea is with that in place, the AI Act, we cannot be applying autonomous weapon systems, AI to autonomous weapon systems or killer robots. But that is probably something that is going to be a struggle, because it's pretty convenient to send robots, as you can see in Ukraine right now, where there's so much use for drones, for instance, and probably robots would be more efficient in killing people. No? New Zealand is going big on this, a leader in the advocacy for uh, the banning of lethal autonomous weapon systems. No, manipulative and exploitative practices. This is something that is almost universally accepted, because it's appalling for us to see robots discriminating against humans, or algorithms being used against humans, but it crops up every now and then. Even our large language models such as ChatGPT or Gemini have latent bias, for instance, against women. There are certain stereotypes that are perpetuated on those large language models. For instance, drivers being men, or certain occupations associated with women. So these are latent biases. I'm not sure how harmful that kind of biases is, but nonetheless, it's there. No, indiscriminate surveillance. I never thought that they would come with Germany would have some kind of a Pentagon or but they now have a way larger surveillance infrastructure. There is um, a um, a greater at least the German government recognized the need for greater surveillance to protect its citizens. But even if the German public would not necessarily be receptive for such increased surveillance. Just to give you a contrast, for instance, in the UK you have more cameras, no, surveillance cameras than in Germany. So it's more politically acceptable for British people to have those surveillance cameras than in Germany, for obvious reasons, and that is their past. Social scoring, this has been normalized in China, and I've been very critical of China how they use surveillance to control its citizens. If you don't behave well in China, you will have less opportunity to travel. You cannot move around for many other reasons, including surveillance, but also you are tied to certain places where you initially flourish, where you grow up. No? So these things are supposed to be prohibited uses of AI. No? So these are some of the instances that uh, that I associated with the enumeration earlier I did. No, but there is erosion of privacy with the use of AI in many aspects of our lives. Biometric identification in publicly accessible spaces for purpose of law enforcement is something that is supposed to be banned, but it is happening in many places, especially for law enforcement purposes, and it can work bidirectionally. It's to protect citizens. The other is also to compromise their human rights. No, so there could be discriminatory outcomes and exclusion of certain groups. We see this in algorithms such as the one for loaning. Women have been discriminated against, for instance, on Apple Pay. Black people have been discriminated against in surveillance. There was one case where the surveillance people camera, or at least the system with AI misidentified black person, when in fact it wasn't the one who perpetrated the crime, shoplifting. So these things are happening now. Social scoring, pretty much a problem, as I said, in China. But I would like to disabuse you thinking that this is really just China. Remember that China exports a lot of surveillance or AI gears to the world. At least from last inventory, about 300 cities are using Chinese-made AI systems, no? So that these systems, these cities are arguably now capable of social scoring if they have to. Now, so what is our solution? We have to look at risk-based governance and regulation. We cannot just be overinflating the potential risk, because there are clearly good uses or benefits to AI. So we'll have to attenuate our regulation, and we cannot be over-regulating. There has to be a balance between risk and benefits. Hence, we have to emphasize the need to understand the risk involved. No? Now, this is an inventory of the so-called common risk of AI. As you can see, these are the main major areas of criminal justice system, financial systems, healthcare, social media, energy and utilities. Now, the ones with red are where you have higher risk, and the ones on yellow would have medium risk, and the ones in green are on lower risk. No, so there's an enumeration of common risk, bias, and leading to discrimination, lack of explainability, all the way down to excessive trust in AI tools. Now, it depends on where you are. For instance, bias leading to discrimination, there is high risk in criminal justice system, and so on and so forth. I will leave the link to this slide because I don't think we have enough time to discuss in greater detail all these risks. Now, this is based on UK Center for Data Ethics and Innovation. 2020. And probably in some areas, this is now 2024, in some areas it has been amplified, the risk has been amplified. In some other areas, they have diminished. So you need also to take a look at the greater details of the context, no, or the context involved in this assessment of common risk, no. So there was one celebrated case also mentioned in the video. That's this really high risk in terms of criminal justice system. You have in the psychological realm, people killing themselves because they took to heart what the chatbot advised them. So there is suicide. There's psychological consequences. There are psychological consequences out of simple chatbots, even reputational harm in terms of video, for instance, produced by certain tools. So this consideration. So we have to take a look at our governance prospects and see how we need to ensure organizational and societal controls, clearly identifying ways to mitigate potential impact of such risk, no. So in recent times, there are moves by government to either loosen control or tighten the control, and Southeast Asia has been seen as some kind of a wild west, no. Of course, that people get traffic to Thailand these days, no. Some people get traffic to Thailand, and that's where they operate their AI systems, or they want to attack certain people, or leverage AI systems to target certain individuals for fraud, no. So if you have loose regulations in Southeast Asia, it could mean regulatory arbitrage, meaning the nefarious characters from Europe, America, and some other parts of the world would just come to Southeast Asia. They will be forum shopping because there is going to be less regulation here. So this is an example again of governance being a global concern. It cannot just be by region because of the prospect of regulatory arbitrage. No, you understand? So the concept is that if you have strong dollar, you come to the Philippines, and you live the life of a king. The same way with AI. So if you have a very powerful AI model and potentially dangerous model, you cannot use it in US or Europe. You take it to Southeast Asia where there is less regulation. So that is something that is problematic, no? So on the other hand, we have to take a look at the way we regulate things. If it's really the top down, and it's so omnibus, especially when it comes to research, consider the prospect that it may well be futile, no? AI systems are becoming increasingly complex, difficult to understand. There's also the potential for backfire, stimulating development of more powerful, dangerous AI systems. So, halimbawa, you're trying to, for example, you want to try to regulate this. When they go underground and they affiliate with each other, they even become more powerful. And when you have a chance to release or use it in people, and the dangers would be magnified, no? There are unintended, unanticipated consequences. While on the other hand, there are potential best practices. You can look at as a possible solution what happened to high frequency trading. People made money, but then when it blew up, we learned from those mistakes, and now we have to regulate high frequency trading. So we're looking at their design algorithms, their algorithmic design, their testing, their real-time monitoring. Do we have a plug to pull? Do we have post-trade control and monitoring? These things can be applied in the area of AI. So we just really have to be really nuanced and granular on how we can regulate AI, because otherwise, if it really just top-down, Philippine Senate type of AI so far, it might as well be futile and ineffective. No? So discrimination, there are many things going on. Possible discrimination against women and LGBTQIA++, social credits, and then sources of bias would, of course, be about or coming from training data, algorithms, and of course the very system itself, no? Bias against AI illiteracy. So I mentioned earlier that AI cannot just be about access. It's not enough that we are able to access ChatGPT. We have to really use ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or some other systems with open eyes, no, with certain levels of competence and understand their limitations so that we can put them in the right places, no. So there is bias against AI illiteracy. There is so much fear mongering about AI replacing jobs. I think in the immediate term, we should be worried about people who know AI to replace people who do not know AI. So I think on this call, if there is a takeaway, I think that it would be it. No, so you have to know AI, so you cannot be replaced by people who know AI better. No, so these considerations also can apply in a grander scale, and that is what we call the digital order. There is economic order. We are, of course, a developing country economically. There is a geopolitical order. Of course, we see the fight between US and China, and the Biden pivot in the Pacific. So there's also digital order, where if you don't develop in terms of digital technologies, will just be at the receiving end of what we call data colonialism. We're just going to be donating to Amazon, to Microsoft, to all this big tech, no? So we see how Filipinos could just be organ donors. We are it's an emergent phenomenon that Filipinos are just mere data donors and consumers of AR products if we don't really upskill ourselves, no? So I've advocated this. We may not be able to compete in compute intensive, GPU intensive areas, no, like large language models. But then there are lesser than language models that are useful, or that could be useful for our own sake, for our own development, no. So Philippines, we should really be considering how we have to position ourselves strategically, given all this, given the world digital order, so to speak. Just quick note that for instance, these are the alternative models, Llama. These are just developed in a very short way, in a short time, not even with large compute. But as you can see, the efficiency is not that bad, no? It gets to 92%. Of course, you have ChatGPT as benchmark, and Bard 93, 92 in just 1 week, effectively just 3 weeks apart. We have Biconia 13B. This is one of the last benchmarks I've seen now. So what I'm saying is that while we may not be able to compete in the ChatGPT area, we have the means to do this in a short span of time, relatively short span of time, provided that we know how to operate or to really do AI. I think the state colleges and universities should really be looking into these things, how they can develop their own model given relatively small capacity of compute, no? Kayang-kaya na po yan, 92%, not bad compared to large compute. And we can incrementally improve on our work so that we will be competent, no? So same point making here, that the risk is not all that bad if we know how to use AI competently, and the cost is not necessarily going to be bad. The more we use it, the more we become efficient at it, no?